that's not how we imagined Greece. Instead, this was our idea of Greece. Athens, with its Acropolis and traffic jams, where the bus drivers of the sightseeing tour buses sometimes have to clear motorcycles that are in the way, was not the starting point of our trip. Instead, we started in the small town of Lavrion, with its 25,000 inhabitants. This was only about a 30-minute cab ride south from Athens International Airport. The port terminal of Lavrion is easy to find and uncomplicated. Drop off your suitcase, get a drink from the friendly Filipino bartender Ron, and after a short walk, you are quickly on the ship. The Celestyal Discovery is a 200-meter-long ship for about 1,200 passengers. After a refurbishment in 2023, the second-hand ship is still in good condition. Our sea view cabin with this nice towel art was on deck 4. Well, it can always rain in Greece in spring, and the Greeks are happy about every drop of water that lands in their reservoirs. However, a little less than here in Mykonos would have allowed us to visit the island more extensively. Shortly afterwards, disaster alert was declared on Mykonos. What is this trip about? Captain Nikolaos Vasileiou explains.
I would like to welcome you aboard the Celestyal Discovery. During this cruise, you have the opportunity to visit some of the Greek islands, Kusadasi, and of course you will taste the Greek and Turkish hospitality.
From the port of the modern Turkish city of Kusadasi, the minibus took half an hour to reach the now abandoned 3,000-year-old ancient Greek city of Ephesus. Its many monumental buildings included the Library of Celsus and a theater capable of holding 24,000 spectators. Ephesus was home to one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, the Temple of Artemis, which no longer exists. Ephesus played an important role in early Christianization when it was under Roman rule. According to scientists, the city may have been home to some 50 to 70,000 inhabitants. Within the Roman Empire, it was one of the largest cities in Asia Minor. Among the many threats the city faced, such as earthquakes, malaria, and invasions, the slow silting of its harbor by a river led to its decline as a port and commercial center and later to its abandonment. Since its rediscovery about 150 years ago, archaeologists have been working on it and continue to make new discoveries. On the way back to the port, we passed a carpet factory. Those who avoided these premises returned to the ship with food, instead of a carpet purchased by credit card. On the onward journey to the small Greek island of Patmos, the kitchen crew showed off their skills. Patmos is a small Greek island of 3,000 people, including a number of Hollywood stars. In Roman times, the island was a place of exile, and it was here that John wrote the story of Revelation. St. John's Grotto is one of the most important sanctuaries in Orthodoxy. Patmos is considered a holy island, and is the destination of several major pilgrimages by Orthodox Christians every year. This is one of the reasons why the island has retained much of its original Greek character. Better not to ask about real estate prices. The cruise ship was unable to sail directly to the port of Patmos due to its draft of 6 meters, so the ship anchored off the coast and small tender boats took the cruise passengers to the port of Scala and back again in the evening. Here is our return trip to the ship. After the ship had sailed through the night close to the Greek-Turkish border, the next morning it was moored in the port of Rhodes town with other large passenger ships. Rhodes has huge medieval fortifications that are well worth a visit. Would you have thought that parrots bite buttons? This magnificent specimen was at home in the outdoor gastronomy of Rhodes town, and took just 2 seconds to expertly sever this button from the shirt with its sharp beak. No hole was actually left, but I wouldn't bet on it next time. Here the replacement button has been sewn on. All that remained of the original button were 2 chewed up halves. The button is a bird toy. At least the parrot was clever enough not to eat the button, so this story ended without plastic poisoning. On the other hand, several fellow travelers had a fit of laughter. While we're on the subject of animals, Have you ever wondered how so many cats survive when they must have cleaned up almost all the mice in Greece? They are actually fed by the locals. But nothing has yet been said about the eventful history of Rhodes. The old town is completely surrounded by a city wall. In 408 BC, 3 cities scattered across the ancient island of Rhodes decided to unite and form a common capital. The following 3 centuries were the golden age of Rhodes due to its successful maritime trade. The Colossus of Rhodes, a giant bronze statue of the god Helios standing splay-legged over the harbor entrance, was also created at that time. As a result of an earthquake, the Colossus toppled over and lasted only 66 years. This made it the shortest-lived of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Rhodes later came under various rulers. The mighty fortifications were built by the Order of St. John in the Middle Ages. From Rhodes and its port, we traveled overnight to the port of Heraklion on Crete. We docked early in the morning before sunrise. Unlike Ephesus and Rhodes, Heraklion was not an important city in antiquity, with an ancient wonder of the world and so on. Heraklion was an unfortified settlement and a small port for Knossos with its famous palace. It was the Arabs who conquered the 5th largest island in the Mediterranean from the Byzantines in 824, who fortified the town and built the first port structures. However, many Arabs lived off pirate raids on Byzantine merchant ships, which is why the Byzantine Empire reconquered Crete in 960. After the Fourth Crusade conquered the Byzantine capital of Constantinople, Crete and thus Heraklion fell to the Republic of Venice in 1206, the largest trading power in the Mediterranean at that time. After 4.5 centuries of Venetian rule, the Ottomans conquered the heavily fortified city, and another 2.5 centuries later, Crete became part of Greece in 1913. Had the Germans not bombed Crete during World War II, more of the historic old town would have been preserved. As a result, Heraklion is not the most beautiful city in Crete today, but a little bit of architecture remains. There is, for example, the 2-story Venetian loggia, built in 1626 to 1628 in the Italian Renaissance style. The loggia was a popular meeting place in the Venetian era. Minas Cathedral, named after the city's patron saint, is the Orthodox cathedral of the Archdiocese of Crete and the seat of the Archbishop. The cross-dome church was consecrated in 1895, after 32 years of construction, and is one of the largest cathedrals in Greece, offering space for around 8,000 worshippers. On the onward journey to Santorini, the weather was as you would expect it in Greece. There was cruise feeling, and the pool area filled up. The penultimate port on this cruise is different. Where all the previous ports have focused on history and culture, this one is about geology and beauty. A brief excursion into science. The African tectonic plate dives under the European plate off the south coast of Crete and is partially melted in the process. The magma emerges hundreds of kilometers further north in a volcanic island arc. One of these islands is Santorini. The volcano of Santorini, which is still active today, was partially blasted away 3,600 years ago by massive magma eruptions, creating a huge collapsed crater. This crater was flooded by the sea, and the remaining main island is crescent-shaped. The highest points of the cliffs drop up to 300 meters towards the sea level. Rugged cliffs, spectacular sunsets, and white houses with blue domes nestled in picturesque alleys and hanging on steep cliffs. This is why Santorini is considered the most beautiful Greek island, and absolutely Instagram and TikTok worthy. Tender boats took us back to the ship. The MS Celestyal Discovery was the first cruise ship to visit Santorini, after a series of earthquakes in spring 2025. And here the captain introduces his team. Well, actually the department heads of his crew. Surprisingly, some of them gained considerable popularity on the relatively short cruise. Because the crew and passengers were quite international, a lot of English was spoken. Due to many Latinos among both the guests and the crew, Spanish came next. And a large group of travelers from France ensured that many announcements were also made in French. The fourth language was Greek, but perhaps this changes depending on the origin of the passengers.
Our chef, Mr. Yannis from Greece. Our bar manager, Mr. Paris from Greece. And of course, our cruise director, Miss Florentina from Romania.
For music, you will enjoy.
The entertainment program with 2 evening shows each night was good.
Estamos preparados para un espectáculo de circo, señoras y señores.
We were grateful that the acrobatic program was not as spectacular as we had once experienced on an Italian cruise ship. This raises the question of how to help an acrobat who has had an accident on the high seas, many hours away from the nearest port and hospital, if he falls from a height of several meters.
Right next to me,
The
ladies and
strength of the
gentlemen,
Cuban
it's a very
artists lay in
important
musicals
person. You don't get to
and in the
see
music
full
itself.
live, but
The 28-year-old violinist Luis Miguel Torres learned his instrument at the age of 8 and has played in the famous National Symphony Orchestra of Cuba. He has been entertaining guests on Celestyal Cruises' 2 ships for the past 3 years. His performances are well worth listening to for lovers of classical music. We also enjoyed all the artists not mentioned here by name. The musical and cabaret performances were very entertaining. Here are some brief excerpts from the program as the ship returned through the darkness to its port of departure, Lavrion. We returned early in the morning and were surprised by the speedy checkout, which meant we had to wait longer for the pre-booked taxi to pick us up. A highly recommended cruise was behind us.